Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Most of you unmuted and you said good evening. Thank you for that. Yes. All right. Now you can mute yourselves. As I said, I would like to take up an important element of composition that you have got, and that is speech writing. Okay. Are you okay with the idea? And meanwhile, I would also like to say that except for Sumedha, who asked me as to how to write an answer effectively, what should be our approach when we write an answer, no one else has come up with any specific doubt. Students, please remember, we have only 2 more classes to go, tomorrow and day after. And if you want me to take up anything in particular, then you must let me know immediately so that I come prepared for that tomorrow and day after. Okay. Now today, as I said, I would move over to speech making. All right. I just wanted to see whether there was anything on the chat box. It's good evening. Yes, thank you. Now, I'm happy to take this up because even otherwise, when I go to different institutions as resource person, my favorite area is of public speaking. Sometimes, of course, I do take up creative thinking and things like that, leadership and all that. But then public speaking is a subject that I'm happy to deal with. And your speech writing comes under public speaking. And you would need it in the future, even if it is not for the answer that you write in the examination. You would have plenty of opportunities to come up as a good speaker. So it's better to know some of the salient features of public speaking and how to be an effective public speaker. Okay. So as usual, I ask you not to take it only from the point of view of an examination that you have to answer, but life itself is an examination, isn't it? It's not that life is easy. In fact, examinations are easier than life. But in life, you might come across many occasions when you have to speak in public, and you might come across stumbling blocks. So let's see whether a few of those stumbling blocks at least can be overcome, whether we can overcome those impediments. Okay. So I will share my screen, but of course, I would also take it up from the point of view of the examination that you write, because ordinarily, again, I'm not able to, I don't know, stop sharing. There is some problem with share screen option. 1 minute. I think I made a mistake. Yes. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'll now go in for the slideshow mode. Okay, I have titled it Dynamics of Speech. Of course, I should say speech writing, because you're not going to deliver a speech in the examination. You're going to write a speech. And I've also seen that you have 2 types of speeches that you are asked to write. Can any one of you unmute yourself and tell me those 2 types? You have 2 specific questions which are formed on speech writing. Can any one of you tell me from your memory? Can you ferret it out of your memory and tell me?
Welcome.
Okay, welcome. When you say, what kind of welcome is it?
Introduction of the guest.
Correct. Introduction of the guest is what comes in your examination repeatedly. Correct. Introduction of the guest. And one more thing also I've noticed, it features quite often on the question paper. So which is that other one? Writing
Speech on a topic.
Yes, very good. Correct answer. One is introducing a person. One more is writing a speech on a specific topic. Correct. So today, when I take up dynamics of speech writing, I will be focusing on those two elements as well. Although I said a little while ago that my focus was also on how you would address an audience in real life situations. Okay. Now, you would have heard of 3 V's of public speaking. I have given you the 3 V's of public speaking there: verbal, visual, vocal. Those are the 3 V's of public speaking. Now, I have also given you 3 numbers there: 7, 38, 55. Now, if I ask you to explain these numbers in terms of 3 V's, what would be your explanation? Any takers for this challenge? I've given you 3 V's: verbal, visual, vocal. Those are the 3 elements of speech writing, speech making: verbal, visual, vocal. And I've also given you 3 numbers: 7, 38, 55. Now, my challenge to you is to connect these 3 numbers to the 3 V's. In other words, to explain the relevance of these 3 numbers in terms of those 3 V's. Any takers for this?
Ma'am.
Yes, Sumeda?
Ma'am, vocal 55.
Okay.
Then verbal 38, visual 7.
Okay. Any difference of opinion? Anyone else? Now, when you total it up, it comes up to 100, doesn't it? 7, 38, 55. It comes up to 100. So, we are talking about the percentage of impact each of these V's has when you present a speech. So, Diksha, would you like to say something? All right. Sumeda, just take a look at the next screen. Now, this is known as the Arabian model. Probably you would be amazed or stunned or even shocked to know that when it comes to the impact factor, words have only 7% impact. Body language, visuals. So when it comes to words, it is verbal, verbal, verbal. So when it comes to words, or what we call verbal aspect of a speech, it has only 7% of impact on the audience. And what is the tone of voice? Vocal. In terms of 3 V's, tone of voice is vocal. And this tone of voice has 38% of impact on the audience. Quite surprisingly and quite interestingly, 55% of the impact on the audience will be in the body language of the speaker. And in terms of V, we call it visual. So you see, visual is 55%, vocal is 38%, and verbal is 7%. Now, does it mean you can write nonsense and get away with that nonsense because you have vocal variety and body language? That's not the point. That's not the idea at all. Your speech has to be good. Your speech, the written matter of your speech must be good. However, when you deliver that written matter, the impact on the audience will be lost until and unless you complement that that is the verbal, the written matter, with your vocal variety and body language. Okay? Vocal variety and visual impact. That's the body language. Now, I will not go deep into visual and vocal aspect of speech making, because right now I'm not dealing with public speaking as such. I'm going to take that, I'm going to look at your exercise from the point of view of how to write a good speech in the examination, and probably even when you move out of the precincts of the examination, how to write an effective speech. So I will not focus on the tone of voice and body language, although that's my pet subject, and I like to take sessions on that because I feel they are important when it comes to speech making. Even for us teachers, actually, very often we forget that the tonal variety, vocal variety has a lot of impact on our students. Even now, I might be monotonous. I can be better than what I am by bringing in variation. And when it comes to body language, of course, on an online platform, body language has lost its relevance to the extent that it would have its relevance in a physical setup, in an offline meet, because after all, most of the times we sit and talk. Even if we stand and talk, the kind of movement that we would otherwise come up with gets restricted when we are on an online platform. However, you must know that they are very important, because let's hope that we're not going to be confined to the online platform every time. We will move out into the brave new world probably after COVID-19 pandemic. We might say a brave new world. And when we move out into this brave new world, we must remember the tonal variety and the visual aspect. But for the time being, let me go back to the element of verbal, the element of words, the verbal aspect of speech writing, not speech making, but speech writing. But keep this point in mind that when you actually speak and when you are at the podium in front of the mic, please remember the tonal variety and the visual aspect, or in other words, vocal and visual aspect. Now, whether it's in the exam, again, Jane, Sunita K. Jane. Okay, please, no annotations, please. If you did it by mistake, oh, I stopped sharing by mistake. Once again, I will go back to sharing. I was trying to disable the annotation and I stopped sharing by mistake. All right, I will disable. Maybe you did it by mistake. Sometimes you don't realize that the annotation is taking place. It could be your mistake. It's okay if it was a mistake, but none of you should do it deliberately. But mistakes can happen, so I don't mind at all if it's a mistake. All right. So I have given you two words here. When it comes to speech writing, you must be aware of these two terms: primacy and recency effect. Can any one of you tell me as to what I mean by these words, primacy and recency? What do I mean by these two words, and what do I mean by the effect of these two? Any takers for this? Any idea? As I always say, I wait only for a couple of seconds. If you don't take the chance to speak out, then I will continue with my explanation. Any takers for this? What do I mean by primacy and recency effect? Okay. Now, when we say primacy effect, it means what we write right at the beginning as our introduction, the introductory paragraph. When we say recency, it means what we write as our concluding paragraph. Now, what we mean by primacy and recency effect is that many experts, researchers have argued that most of us, whether we listen to a speech or whether we read a speech, whatever it is, or not necessarily only a speech, whatever it is, most of us, I believe, tend to remember what is said right at the beginning. Now, there are differences of opinion. Some researchers feel that most of us will remember what we listen to right at the end. That is the recency effect. Okay. So some feel that it is the primacy effect, what we hear right at the beginning, that is remembered. Some say that, some argue that it's what is said right at the end that is remembered. Now, let's say that both are remembered. If both are remembered, let's not take the risk, and let's say that let's make our introduction and our conclusion effective. So let's not argue over primacy effect having an edge over recency effect or vice versa. Let's just say that we will try and make our introduction and our conclusion effective. So today, I'm going to give you many hints as to how to make your introduction and your conclusion effective. All right. Now, why am I not speaking about the body part of it? You may wonder, why is ma'am talking about the introduction and the conclusion, and why isn't she talking so much about the body part of it? Now, Sumedha, here comes my answer to your question of yesterday as to how to write an answer effectively. That was your question. Now, my answer to you is that, see, whenever a question is raised, you must write a short, effective introductory paragraph, or if it is not an essay type, if it is just a paragraph question, a couple of introductory sentences, because every valuer will certainly read one or two lines at the beginning. Every valuer will also read one or two lines at the end without fail. Of course, they will take a look at what is written in between that, but greater focus will be there for the beginning lines and the ending lines. Now, in the beginning, you will write something that is introductory in nature. For example, if you are writing about Vandana Shiva, then you will say that environment is the concern of all of us. It needn't be the concern of only the ecologists. And then you will say that unless each of us takes the pledge to protect our environment, we can hope for no bright future. Then after that, you will talk about her work. That will be the main part. But then that will be textual, right? You're not showing anything that is your own there. So that will be textual. Now, again, in the concluding lines, you will come up with your own observations, your own conclusions of the work put in by this particular iconic environmentalist. So if you do it in this manner, if you write something that is introductory, that's general in nature, and then move on to something that is specific, textual, that is what you have gathered from your textbook, and then again you come up with your own inferences, your own conclusion to the given question, that will prove to be a very good answer. Okay. Likewise, I will give you some ideas as to how to make your speech interesting at the beginning and at the end. Why am I not giving you the body of the speech? Tell me. I'm not giving you the body of the speech for two reasons. Any guess?
Ma'am, body differs from question to question. Like what
Very good,
information is
Sumitra.
given to us, accordingly we have to write. But introduction
Very
and
good.
conclusion can have some kind of template.
Very good. I clap my hands. A huge round of applause. Such a good answer, Sumedha. I'm very happy that you have given this answer. Yes, I hope all have heard the answer given by Sumedha. Very rightly, she has pointed out that we cannot be prepared for the body because it depends upon the question. Even if we have, let's say, a bank of possible topics, how much can we prepare ourselves for that? We don't have that kind of time. For one question on the question paper to sit and prepare to that extent is almost impossible. So, and secondly, as Sumedha said, you are given cues, aren't you? You are given inputs there and you are asked to expand those inputs, those points given. So the points will anyway be there and the points differ from question to question. So I cannot really be of great help when it comes to the body. That is one reason. Another reason, as I've already told you, surely the valuers will be reading your introductory paragraph, they will be reading your concluding paragraph, and if they get impressed, they know that your body will only be a repetition of what is given on the question paper itself with various points, hints. So that may not have a lot of impact on the valuers. So remember, primacy and recency effect. Remember that we have two types of questions usually. One is to introduce a person, one is to write a speech on a given topic. Okay. Now, let me tell you that one of the ways in which we can make an impressive introduction and conclusion is by keeping a few quotations ready. Now, last time when I took a class and I gave a whole lot of possibilities, some of the students asked me, how to remember, ma'am, so many things. Now, students, please don't get me wrong. I will be giving you various options. It doesn't mean that you need to remember so many options to approach one question. Am I right? You need to remember only one introductory paragraph, one concluding paragraph. I'm not asking you to remember all that I'm going to present before you, but I'm going to present before you a plethora of possibilities so that you can pick and choose, or you can think of your own introduction or conclusion on similar lines. Okay, so don't get worried when I give you a number of quotations as to how to sit and remember. No, that is not the idea at all. I don't expect you to remember anything, but this is only to expose you to various possibilities. All right. So now if it is the introductory paragraph, and if it is the introduction of a person, I give you some options, consider them. Okay. Now, you see, it's all general in nature, right? I'm using a quotation by Samuel Johnson. Knowledge is of two kinds. We know a subject ourselves, or we know from where to get the information, said Samuel Johnson. Today, we have been smart in finding for ourselves a highly knowledgeable. I've also given you the word erudite. Erudite means knowledgeable itself, scholarly, learned. Okay. So I gave you the word as an option. You can write scholarly. Instead of knowledgeable, you can write scholarly, well-informed, well-read. All right. Erudite, or um, you can say wise, but wise sounds a little too, uh, I must say, I wouldn't like to say wise person because it sounds as though we are talking about sages. So better avoid such words and say knowledgeable, erudite, and things like that, who will steepen our learning curve. Steepen, that is to take it to a height suddenly, steepen our learning curve. My reference is to our esteemed chief guest or keynote speaker, or you have to be careful. You must look at what is given in the question, whether they say as your chief guest you have, or as your keynote speaker you have. Whatever designation is given, you must make use of that designation. You cannot be careless and change the designation. In the question, if they say guest of honor, you have to stick to whatever designation is being given in the question. Now, as I said, these are the various possibilities. Now, this is one more quotation that you can use. It is said that life is 5% cards and 95% how you play them. Success requires mining the gold in your own mind. Our chief guest is the best example of this idea. So you don't even need to look at my examples, because if you go to quotable quotes, right, you will get plenty of examples and you can keep one such example ready. Now, this is slightly different. I'm not talking about the person here. this is what I'm saying, because you see, when we introduce a person, sometimes even in real life situations, we might not make use of all the credentials supplied by the person. So we explain as to why we are not using all the credentials supplied by the person when we have quotations of this kind. It is Shakespeare who said, brevity is the soul of wit. Hence, although the credentials of a chief guest, inaugurator, keynote speaker are many, I will present only a few of his achievements, accolades. So you see that you are not going to make a very lengthy speech. So I also have one more. It's a fact that when a window of opportunity appears, we should not pull down the blind. Today, I, in my capacity as student secretary, have the singular privilege of introducing an iconic person, Miss Vandana Shiva. Okay. Now, here it is again different from the earlier examples. Here you are showing that you are happy to take the opportunity of introducing a person. So you see, there are subtle differences in the examples that I have given. In the previous slide, sorry, I should have gone up. In the previous slides, it was more about 2 slides. This was more of appreciation for the person, a general statement to show that the person who has come to you as your chief guest is worthy of your admiration. So these two were of that kind. But when I went to this was of a different nature altogether, if you took note of that. So introductory paragraph needn't necessarily be of the same kind. They can be of different types. Okay. They can be about the person, admiration for the person, happiness that you have got the chance to introduce the person, also an explanation of what you are going to do, an explanation that you are going to be brief or short but effective. Okay. So again, this is, you tell me now, which of the types am I giving you again? This is again admiration for the person. Okay. Now, if there is anything that you want me to question on, you may question me on that. So read this. I'm not going to read out everything that is there because you can read it yourselves. Okay. Now, similarly, do you want me to go back to each of the slides once so that if you want any explanation from any one of these, you may do that. This was the first slide I told you, where we show admiration. Again, admiration. Here, you're talking about being brief. Here, you are taking the privilege. Here again, you are going back to admiration for the person. And then in the next paragraph, you are showing that the person has been very thoughtful in making time for you. So this is also one way of writing the introductory paragraph, showing your gratefulness that the person has made time for you. Okay. Any question from any of the slides that I have shown till now? Any clarification? Shall I continue? Is there any question from your side? Okay. Now, concluding paragraph will also be somewhat similar to the introductory paragraph. It's not going to be entirely different from the introductory paragraph. In fact, they can be interchanged also with a few changes in the words used. You can, in fact, even interchange your introductory and concluding paragraphs. Anyway, I have made it more specific here because we are talking about conclusion. So I'm sure after we listen to our speaker, we will realize how profitable his speech has been for us. This can be your concluding paragraph because you are moving one step ahead. After introducing the person, now you are moving one step ahead. That is, you are setting the stage for the speech of the speaker. So in the concluding paragraph, you can do that. You can also say, over to our chief guest for his address, even that can be done. Shall we await the message from our chief guest, even that can be done. So I have used a quotation again that would go with conclusion. About books, we say that a good book is the one which is opened with expectation and closed with profit. We can stretch the analogy. Analogy is the partial comparison, and say that of speakers too. So I'm comparing the speaker to the book. And just as you open a book with expectation, and if the book is good, you close the book with profit. You get the feeling that, okay, this book has been good, then you close the book with profit. In the same manner, you sit and listen to a person with expectation, and only when the speech is good, you come to the conclusion that it has been profitable for you. So that's the analogy that I'm using. And I'm using this analogy in conclusion because after my introduction, it's going to be the speech of the speaker. So such statements can come as the concluding paragraphs. I've given you one more similar conclusion, not similar, but one more example which has the tone of conclusion more strikingly than what it would be if you use any of the introductory paragraphs. In these paragraphs, you see that the conclusive tone is striking. True lead, sorry, it should be a true leader, okay? Again, you can't say true leader. A true leader changes a group from what it is to what it can be. I'm sure the inputs from our resource person will tap our potential and take us to the higher level of what we can be. So again, you see, you are preparing the audience for the speech of the resource person. That is why I said the tone of conclusion is more striking in paragraphs of this kind. So they can come as conclusions. So I've given you a few more examples. You can read. I won't read out everything. You can quickly take a look at this. I've already explained this to you as to how you will be asking the person to speak at the end of your speech. Have you finished reading? Possible conclusions again? Okay. Now, all those slides were about the primacy and recency effect if we had to introduce a person. Now, similarly, the other possibility is when you have to speak on a topic. If you are given a topic and if you are the speaker and if you have to speak on a topic. So I have a few examples of how to do it, and I've given you this. Of course, salutation will remain the same, more or less it will remain on the question. So salutation that I've given here does not make much sense. It depends upon the occasion. We don't know. It can be a sports event. It can be the annual day of a company. So we do not know. Salutation depends on the question. But I have just taken this because very often they take the setup of a college. So if they take the setup of a college, this could be the salutation. So here, since it is about a topic, I have given you this kind of introduction. Distinguished principal, respected faculty members, dear students and eminent invitees. I've been assigned the duty of throwing light on a topic that is highly relevant in the contemporary world, or you can say present times. I do so with a tremendous sense of responsibility as I know that what I say will be received keenly by all of you. So this is just to show that instead of simply writing, I am asked to speak on such a topic, which will make your beginning very bland, flat, uninteresting. It won't be spicy at all. So, if you have to make your introductory lines more interesting, this is what you need to do. You have to connect the topic to the present times, and you must say that it's relevant to talk on the topic and then move on to the topic. So, even in your examination, if you have to be a speaker and if you have to speak on a topic, don't write in that bland manner, I'm here to present my speech on such a topic. That makes it very dull, that makes it very boring. So the minute you are original, the minute you are unique, it will come out as an answer to be valued on a different scale altogether. Even a valuer who looks at your answer will immediately realize that here is an answer which is a cut above the rest. Okay. So I have given you one more possibility of how you can say that whatever. Now you see, these are all generic beginnings. No matter what topic is given to you to speak on, you can use these lines, and then you can say the topic for today is, and then give the topic that is given, and then write the body, and then of course again I have a few examples for the conclusion. This again are a few more. So to revisit the idea, to reinvent the idea, all these words can be used because they all show that a topic, see, no topic can be an entirely new topic, right? Is there any topic that you can say is new, totally new? No. But the speaker is going to give his or her opinion about that topic. So there, that speaker revisits the topic, reinvents the topic, and gives his own approach to the topic. Okay. So read this on your own. I've given you different sentences. The last few are single sentences or as to how you begin. All right. Is it done? Now, in the same manner, just as you have the primacy effect, even just as you had primacy effect and recency effect for a speech that is of introduction, I have given you primacy and recency effect. So here is the conclusion. If I am the speaker, if I'm making the speech, how do I conclude? I would now like to conclude my speech or presentation, because now they also go in for PPT, with the hope that I have been successful in touching your hearts with my ideas. As I come to the end of my speech, if it is touching your hearts with my ideas, you will say, if the given topic is something to do with your emotions, okay? Supposing you had a topic about the harrowing experiences of migrant laborers at the time of the national lockdown. Supposing you have made a moving speech about that, about the problems of the migrant laborers, and supposing you have placed before your audience, or in the context of the examination, written a speech where you have also given possible solutions, and you have sought the involvement, contributions from your readers or your listeners, then you can come up with lines like, in touching your hearts with my ideas, if it is an emotional one. If it is an intellectual one, we will not have that, but we will have a more um, objective approach. As I come to the end of my speech, I do hope that you share my vision of India and will take the matter forward in your own capacity. Before the conclusion, I thank the organizers for giving me this platform to exchange my views with an enlightened, inspired, enthusiastic, motivated audience. Any one of the words that you can use. You can also show your gratitude that you have been asked to be the speaker. Now, if you want to make your speech a little dramatic, in the end, you will also come up with lines of this kind. Shall we put our hands together for our eminent speaker? So, this is when you are having the introduction, not the second one. Second one, you are the speaker. But when you introduce, if you want to make it an enthusiastic conclusion, a vibrant conclusion, you can also have conclusions of this kind. Shall we put our hands together for our eminent speaker? Shall we welcome our speaker with a thunderous round of applause? May we hear it for our guest of honor. These can also be your concluding lines. Now, here I have given you one more point that is very relevant actually in real life situations. Okay, I've given avoid cliche, or maybe I can put it in the plural, avoid cliches. What do we mean by cliches? Any idea? What is a cliche? Any one of you? Do you know the meaning of the word cliche? Yes, again, Sumedha, you unmuted yourself. Any idea?
I'm not sure, but I guess it is something to do with the uh, something which was followed in olden times, but now as time has evolved, we have better measures to do the same thing.
Correct, correct. It's correct, Sumedha. Only thing is that it needn't necessarily be something that was followed in the olden times. A cliche is something that has been used so often that it has lost its charm. Okay. In Kannada, I think we have the phrase Charvita Charvana. Do you all remember that? Charvita Charvana. In fact, the Kannada word for cliche is difficult. Charvita Charvana. That is something that is repeated, made use of so many times that it has lost its charm. It has lost its uniqueness. It has lost its originality. So that's a cliche. So most of us are guilty of using cliches in our speeches. For example, the first one, last but not the least. Don't we all say this in our speeches? So many times, last but not the least. Now you see, first time when somebody came up with this phrase, last but not the least, it must have sounded so fresh and so enlightening, so appealing. Because you see, when you want to thank people, you always wonder, will this person feel left out? Will that person feel left out if we put that person at the end? But then, if you have a sentence of this kind, last but not the least, you know that all are equally important. So, the very first time when somebody used it, it would have sounded fabulous, marvelous. But now you see, every Tom, Dick, and Harry comes up with this last but not the least, and it's boring. Frankly speaking, it's something that you can avoid. At the same time, you want to say something of that kind. So, what do? What you do is tweak it a little bit, change it a little bit. Even if you're using it, don't use it in the same manner, use it slightly differently. The last, but also the most important. So if you do that, then you are changing the original to some extent and giving it your own touch of originality, uniqueness. Now, how many times have we thanked the chief guest despite his busy schedule, despite her busy schedule, she has made time for us, right? Every time we say that. Who is not busy? I remember Manohar Prasad of Udayavani once saying that in Kannada, he was telling us this in Kannada in one of his speeches. He said, ಯಾರನ್ನು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಕೇಳಿ, ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಮಗುವನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿ, ಒಂದು ವಯೋವೃದ್ಧರನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿ, ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಮಗುವಿನಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಒಂದು ವಯೋವೃದ್ಧರವರೆಗೆ ಯಾರನ್ನು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಕೇಳಿ, ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಪುರ್ಸೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾರ ಹತ್ರ ಸಹ ಪುರ್ಸೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೆಲಸ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಸೆಡ್. ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಪುರ್ಸೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೆಲಸ ಇಲ್ಲ. So you see, everyone is busy. We really don't know what we are busy with. Sometimes we are busy just checking WhatsApp messages. But anyway, everybody is busy. So what's the point in simply saying, despite your busy schedule? It is a cliche. So can we change the cliche and make it slightly different? That is why I've given you the possibilities within brackets, despite your multifarious commitments, many commitments, despite the heavy demand on your time is better instead of on time. Please add that. Though time is not a luxury with you, luxury is something that you can do away with. So when you say, though time is not a luxury with you, you're saying that time is a precious commodity with the person. So it is better to avoid the phrase, despite your busy schedule. And every time that somebody comes up with the speech, the favorite word that we use is inspirational speech. It's not wrong. You can use it. There is no harm in saying inspirational. But you see, there are so many other possibilities. We don't try them out. You can say enlightening speech. You can say powerful speech, potent speech, well-researched speech, erudite. This is the word I used earlier. Enriching, edifying. What is edifying? Does anyone know the meaning of edifying? Edification, edifying. What is it? When you learn something, you say it was edifying. You listen to someone and you learn something, you say it was edifying in nature. So try out different possibilities instead of using cliches. Okay. Now, the final thing is avoid mistakes. Now, I have come across these any number of times. Please avoid these three completely because they are all wrong. They are all wrong. First of all, when you say, I kindly request, it is not 100%, 200% wrong. Because when you say, I kindly request, you are attributing kindness to yourself. Okay? I kindly request. Now, when you say, I humbly request, it is redundant. Request itself is a request. Why do you want to be humble? We Indians are very fond of this, doubly humble. I humbly request, not necessary. I request is enough. Again, for the same reason, I please request is redundant. Avoid these cliches. Thank you. I will stop sharing the screen, and if you have any doubt, you can tell me. Any question from your side? It's only 7:50. So if you have any doubt, let's have doubt clarification. Any question from any one of you? No question? If you want, you can put it on the chat box also if you have any question. Okay. If you have no questions, then shall I move ahead? I have 10 minutes. We started today without any input session. So I promise you I will not go beyond 8. But we still have 10 minutes time. So shall I introduce the next component to you? Is that okay? I give you chance once again to come up with your doubts, if any, or any clarification or any observation that you want to make. Any interaction from your side is welcome on the chat box, or how to improve our handwriting during exam. Preeti Fernandez to me. Okay. Preeti, even if it is a private question, I will take it up for all of them. Okay, Preeti. Probably Preeti Fernandez, yeah, you have a wrong person to raise this, to put this question to, because my handwriting is nothing to speak of. Okay. But I can answer your question. You know, I'm in a paradoxical situation. On the one hand, I say my handwriting is not good enough to talk about good handwriting. But on the other hand, I feel I have the right to talk about how to make your handwriting legible. in the examination for various reasons. I can take this question. Now, first of all, let me share with you something that is personal, in the sense, my handwriting has been, what shall I say, not at all impressive throughout my life, even now. But it became legible at one point of time. And every time that I wrote the question paper in the department, we are many, and almost all have a better hand than what I have. Their handwriting is better than mine. But every time when we used to, now we don't, but when we used to write the question paper and send it to the clerical staff for typing, the clerical staff would always understand my question paper to a greater extent than what they understood of the question papers of other staff members. I used to always wonder how it was so, because my handwriting was the worst of the lot. But then I realized that it was very clear. What I wrote was clear to them. And how did I achieve that clarity? To tell you, to take a leaf out of my life, to tell you very frankly, mm, on time, any tips on time management? Okay, I'll come to that. Time management. Remind me if I forget it. Remind me if I forget it. Okay, time management. Now, going back to the handwriting, actually, when I started teaching my children, now they had that cursive writing book. Now I don't think schools follow that. I think it is different now. Now they don't have that cursive writing. But I found cursive writing very useful because it shows how each letter is formed. So once you follow that cursive writing method of forming each letter, now A should be written in this manner, B should be written in a particular manner, C is almost like A, but it comes back. So D also goes like A and C, but it comes back. See, go through what is shown as cursive writing. Follow the method when you write. Your handwriting will be legible, if not beautiful. It will be completely 100% legible, and examiners will be able to read it. Of course, good handwriting, a beautiful handwriting will have an impact on examiners. I am sure of that. Even though my handwriting itself is not nice to look at, when I look at an answer script which has a beautiful handwriting, I get impacted by that. So we cannot help it. It happens. But if your handwriting is legible, at least the valuer will not get annoyed. That is one thing. So try to follow that cursive writing pattern. Practice it for a couple of days, it will be yours. I guarantee you that. Even if you practice it for a couple of days, your handwriting will become legible if you follow that. That is number one. One more thing is that don't make your writing too big or too small. Okay. Now, sometimes the handwriting is beautiful, but too small. It's a strain on the eye of your valuer, and we start losing our patience. So don't make it too small. And some of you think that now I think the number of pages given is limited and all that. So that is different. But even then, some of you unnecessarily make your handwriting too big, thinking that, you are showing that you're writing a lengthy answer and you would impress. No, it's jarring. It's not at all pleasant for the eye. And also the space between words. This is one more thing that you have to keep in mind. The space between two words should be consistently maintained. If you don't maintain that space between two words, then again, reading becomes difficult. So Preeti, keep these points in mind, write and see. See whether you follow these rules of writing when you write. If you don't, then try to change and practice it a couple of days at least, a couple of hours every day for a week. You will certainly improve your handwriting, even if it is not beautiful to look at. It will be legible And once you are legible, at least by 2%, your marks will improve. If not more than that, at least by 2%. Handwriting has its impact when it comes to your marks. Okay. Now, the next question was about time management. Okay. Now, the problem with most of you is that if there is an answer that you know very well, you tend to write a lot. How to stop unwanted thoughts while studying. All right, I'll come to that. Mind from how to stop the mind from wavering, from distractions when you revise. Anyway, I will answer these questions to the best of my ability. I am not a counselor. I'm not even a career guidance expert, but I will tell you whatever I know as a teacher and maybe mother. So we'll see how it goes. Now, coming back to the question of time management. Yes, how do we manage time? First of all, count the number of paragraph questions and essay type questions that you have got. How many questions have you to attempt in your English or science or whatever? Count the number of questions that you have got. Count the number of one-word answers that you have got. Now, one-word answers will not take that much time unless you lose yourself in trying to remember. So, in the examination, just write the answer that you remember very clearly. Come back to the questions that will ask for your memory to be tested. When it comes to one-word questions, one-word answers and all that. When it comes to English, it is usually the area of grammar. Now, one mistake which all of you make is that you think of grammar as tough. So, you feel that you can score well when you answer those paragraph questions and essay type questions and all those other questions from the textbook. Okay, you should not leave out any questions. So yes, those questions will have to be attempted. But also remember that in grammar, you stand the scope of getting full marks. Whereas in other questions, even if you answer them very well, you will not get full marks. So if you take too much time there without giving yourself enough time for the second part that deals with grammar and composition and report writing and all that, you are actually denying yourself the chance of improving your percentage. Okay. So look at your number of questions that you have got, paragraph, essays. Look at the time frame, divide, tell yourself for each of the questions, I'm not going beyond 5 minutes or 7 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever calculation, because I have not done that calculation. I didn't study your question paper from that angle, so I do not know about the number of questions and all that, but you can do that very easily. Each of the question papers, not necessarily only English, any subject for that matter. First of all, look at the number of questions and look at the time that is available. Have this simple mathematics of division, and even when you answer, keep to the time limit. One more thing is that if you're not sure of an answer, don't spend too much time trying to recollect, trying to see whether it is right or wrong and writing the wrong answer and then striking it out and all that. Attempt questions which you know very well and write the answers to the best of your ability. And come back to the questions which do not really give you the kind of confidence that you need to have when you approach them. Okay. Now there was one more question about 1 minute. I'll just read time management. Okay. So what I'll do is, if you want me to spend more time on time management, I will go through the question paper and I will get back to you on that again. Other than what I've already said, there was one more question about how to stop your mind from wavering when you study. Of course, as I've already said, I'm not from the field of psychology, but what I can tell you very clearly, without any doubt, is that there are two tips that I would like to give you. One is that most of you have the habit of pacing up and down with your book and reading it aloud and all that. Okay, you can do that. But I would like to tell you that a better method would be when you sit with your book at your table, and as you read one particular answer, if you have the ability to jot down points. Now you read an answer and you think that, okay, I have read an answer, I know that answer. That's the feeling you get. But that might not be the truth. Only when you try to jot down, even when you try to memorize, what you tend to do is you try to memorize, you look at it and you think that you remember. Instead of that, you read an answer, put it down. I'm not saying write the whole answer. I'm not saying you should write the whole answer. Keywords. Keywords, if you write, that will also serve as mind mapping. Okay. Now, if you write it even in the form of a diagram, this question deals mainly with this particular point, and this particular point gets further divided into 2 points. These are the 2 major points. Under these 2 major points, we have subdivision of, in this 3 points, in that 4 points. So do I remember all the points? So if you put it in that manner, as I said, it serves 2 purposes. One is that you will know immediately where you have stumbling blocks, what is it that you're not able to remember. And when you fill in those details and you put that in the form of a diagram, or in the form of bullet points, in the form of diagram, tree diagram, we call it tree diagram, or bullet points. If you put it in, or even, in the form of blocks or whatever, if you put it in that manner, and when you look at it, even without your own awareness, it will serve as mind mapping, because that picture is there in front of you, and it is easier for you to remember that kind of flow chart better than remembering a paragraph. So every time that you revise, you have it in your workbook. I think note making is a chapter. Should our answer in 4 marks question? How long should our answer? Okay. So even in your workbook, I don't know, in the previous workbook it was there. I don't know whether you have it in your workbook now. Don't you have a chapter on note making? Do you have it
Yes,
or
ma'am,
not?
it is there. It is there,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Sumedha. And I consider it one of the most useful chapters. Unfortunately, dear students, you don't pay enough attention to that particular chapter in your workbook. You think it is just, some workbook teacher has asked us to finish that chapter, so I will finish that chapter. I must tell you that the workbook is worked out with a lot of care and concern for you as students. So if you follow what is given in that note making, I tell you, I assure you that it will be much easier for you to revise any subject for that matter. I'm not talking about English here. Any subject for that matter, whether it is science subject, commerce subject, arts subject, if you apply what is given as inputs in your workbook under the note making chapter, it will help you. So when in English we have this phrase, ink what you think, right? Ink what you think. So if you have the habit of putting down points, it will definitely help you from being distracted, and it will also help you to remember better. It's a double-edged sword. It helps you in not getting distracted, in having greater level of attention, having a greater level of attention, I must say. And also, it will help you remember what you have put down better. Okay. So that's my answer for how to avoid. And, just as they say that there is no, they say one size does not fit all. So what I say might not be relevant for all of you, but try out these to see whether these methods would work out for you. Now, most of us are very cynical about any of the suggestions given. We say, oh, this is a routine thing that everyone says, it will not work out for me. You don't even try. So try and see. If you're serious about it, if you're earnest about it, try and see. Now, how long should our answer for 4 marks question be? Okay, I will answer this, but as I said, it's better that you ask your teachers. But from my knowledge, I can say if it is 4 marks, half foolscap paper. You have this, half of it is more than enough. You don't need to write more than that for 4 marks. That's my answer. But you can cross check it with your teachers, because I teach in a college, degree and PG. I taught in PU many years ago, but it's quite some time since I've taught in a PU college. Now I'm in PG, so if you want, you cross check. But as far as my knowledge goes, 4 marks, you don't need to write more than half foolscap paper. Okay. Okay. So now the number has come down to 21. We are on one screen only. Thank you, all of you who have stayed back to clarify your doubts. If at all there is anything more, you can ask me, or you can put it on the group. As I have said, I repeat myself, unless you come up with your need, requirements, I will continue with whatever I have planned for you. Tomorrow I will be taking up pronouns. I took nouns. You also have an exercise on pronouns. So I will be dealing with pronouns. And on the last day, on Saturday, it can be a mixed hamper where I give you maybe a test and see where you stand, to see how much of what I taught um, would be internalized by you. Okay. So shall we call it a day? Shall we wind up the class? So today I think I have the pleasure of thanking each of you individually. Can you take a class on reported speech, ma'am? So Vignesh Shetty, do you want me to repeat the class on reported speech, or do you want me to come up with more examples of reported speech? Do you want me to come up with more examples of reported speech? Is that what you want?
Yeah,
All right. Vignesh, were you there for the first class or not?
I was there first class also.
Okay. So
Okay.
what you mean by this is you want more examples to be worked out. Okay, can be done. But I would also like to know from others whether it is okay, because others should not feel that it is a repetition. So is that all right to have a few more examples worked out of
Just a bit
reported
of glance,
speech?
ma'am. That's it.
Pardon me?
Just a bit of more knowledge about it, reported speech. That's it. Nothing more than that. Like we have some doubt, like in using that particular
Oh,
words.
okay.
So have
All
doubt in
right.
that. Okay, done.
Okay. So a few more examples to be worked out, which I will do. And when I work out those examples, feel free to come up with your own doubts. Okay. In case I still don't answer your doubts, you can come up with your doubts. No problem at all. All right. So
Thank you,
now
ma'am.
I have today I think I can, in fact, thank you all individually, because I think there is only one screen. So Sarthak, Shireen, Sumeda, Kritika, Sudiksha, Tasma, Akshaya, Ashwini, Rakshita, Sadhvi, Vignesh, Yashas, Fatima, Tapshira, Preeti, Rashmi, Kishal, I think, Sanmita and Rakshita. Thank you very much for being with me till the end. Have I left out any name? Hope not. I think I haven't left out. Okay, ma'am, there are phrases in grammar part. Phrases. You mean to say clauses and phrases? Is that what you mean to say? Phrases and clauses? Can you give me an example on the chat box? Idioms and phrases. Okay, okay, okay. Idioms and phrases. All right. I can take that up. But the only problem with idioms and phrases is that anything on the earth can come. So it's very difficult to be fully prepared for that. That is the problem. Anyway, if you want me to take it up, I will take it up. Only thing is that I don't know how far it will be useful for you. Anyway, let me look at your question paper and see what can be done. Okay. All right.
Ma'am, but that's the more difficult and confusing one.
Which one? That idioms and
Idioms
phrases,
and
is it?
phrases.
Yes, is it Tapshira
Yes.
who is speaking? Tapshira, I get
Yes.
your point. But the problem is, you see, every year, any idiom and any phrase, do you have a bank of that? Is it from your textbook that they take? Have you studied it? Is it
No,
from the
some
textbook?
no from workbook.
Is it from the workbook?
Yes.
Okay. If it is from
Ma'am,
mm,
give some
yes.
example in the class.
Okay. No, the thing is that if it is from the workbook, then it is okay because you at least have some idioms and some phrases. I can explain to you what an idiom is, what a phrase is, what is the difference, all that I can do. But my problem is that I don't know whether the question paper setter is supposed to take it only from the workbook. I don't know actually about that. So if the question paper can take it from the general pool, then it's very difficult for any one of us for that matter to be prepared. Anyway, I will give you an explanation of what we mean by an idiom, what we mean by a phrase, and a few of that. Okay. A small list of idioms and phrases with its meaning will be helpful. Okay. All right. I'll do that. I'll keep that in mind. So as of now, Vignesh has asked me to come up with more examples of direct and indirect speech. And some of you want me to take up idioms and phrases. All right. That's all right, what you had asked for. Okay. I'll do that.
Yes.
So shall we wind up now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much. See you all tomorrow. As they say, same time, same Zoom platform. We'll meet. Bye. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Diksha,
Yes, ma'am.
shall
Thank
I
you,
log
ma'am.
out?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. See you tomorrow, ma'am.
Bye. Thank you, all of you. Bye.
Students, do you need a breakout room?
No.
No? Okay then, fine. See you tomorrow.